Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left me.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Tattness podcast. My guest today is awesome. I'm just honored to call this cat my friend. I'm very proud to call him my friend. This guy is friends with people, everyone from Ice Cube to Hulk Hogan. This guy's had a hell of a career so far, and he's just getting started, man. He's the host of Movie Reviews and More, Brian Sebastian. This cat is so experienced in this field. He's met so many interesting people, and just a great dude all around, man. There's not enough I can say about him. He's just such a great guy, and getting to know him has been an absolute honor, and it's a pleasure. And I'm proud to call him my friend. It's truly an honor to know this guy, and I look forward to working with him quite a bit. Check him out. He's got a lot of interesting stories, man. All right, so how's it going, man?
I'm doing good. I can't complain. What are we at? We're at 6 million views today and counting as usual. We're at 6,032,000. So we reached that, 4 days ago? And then we just did our last two shows. What's today? Today is Wednesday, yesterday in Los Angeles. So we're doing good.
That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Thank you. You've been doing well, I see also.
Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, it's crazy. I didn't expect it, so it's I was kind of floored by that because I don't really pay attention to that kind of thing, and it was sent to me, and I was like, oh, no way. It was interesting.
I know. I said the same thing because I had no idea either. I was like, well, this is interesting. Where did this come out of? And then all of a sudden, I think Eileen or Jimmy started sharing things. I'm like, well. All of a sudden, I started getting more phone calls. I'm like, well, wow, that's interesting. I had no idea. I'd never even heard of it before.
Yeah, it kind of snowballs out of nowhere, and it's crazy. I honestly, I was on a vacation, like a 3-day vacation. I was camping, and I got a text message with an article, and I thought, okay, they must have, made it onto the list. That's cool. So I'm looking through it. I had no idea, and then I see I'm number 10. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? I was like, I didn't even think I'm even like on their radar with this. It's like it never crossed my mind. You know what I mean? So it was kind of weird. I was like,
no, that's good. Congratulations. Good for you. I'm always up for anybody who can do anything. How long you been doing your show for?
August was a year.
Good for you. I mean, because I always tell people, for us, we always go by views. I don't go by followers. You can unfollow someone. I don't go by subscribers. You can always unsubscribe and you can always unlike something, but you can never unview or view. And I always tell people that, and that's why we go by that. So when we're out of Tennessee, we take the show on the road. We have 3.8 million views out of Tennessee alone. And those shows don't go on our YouTube. I haven't even aired those shows. One show out of there was only 5 up, but we got 5 more that have been sitting in a camp a whole year. And I'm just waiting for them to put up because I'm not in control of them. But those 5 shows are 3.8 million views. And that, the reason why it's huge out of there, and it's called IT247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, not Nashville, Franklin, which is about 25 minutes away from there, Nashville, it's because we have the country of Argentina. And we have a lot of people in the world of country who might have made it at one point and they're on the second or sometimes last go around. So people see that. And then out of Argentina, YouTube is not in Argentina. iTube 247 is, so we have that whole country. So imagine what we get from the assets of that, based from Don King, the boxing promoter. So with his 82 or 83 million followers that he's had from the world of boxing, we are the only movie show on it. So we've been able to capitalize off of that, even though we're separate from Don.
That's brilliant. And I agree completely. I do the same thing, man. I don't really keep up with like my social media pages for the show or anything like that because I'm too busy doing the business end. I don't really care about that kind of thing because, like you said, people can follow, unlike things at the drop of a hat. or they may
Yeah.
like the page, but they're not even following it, so they don't see any of the updates. They don't interact with anything, so it's just fake numbers, really. So I don't really pay attention to that. What I care about is the downloads. You know what I mean?
Well, downloads are good. You know, when I was testing downloads at our other station, it was at another station in Los Angeles, and we were only there for 6 months, but our downloads were doubling, tripling, especially overseas. So we had more of our overseas following. We didn't have a domestic following. So that's what I was learning by doing all of those things like that and incorporate everything together, and it's very interesting. Downloads are good.
Absolutely. And you've been doing this quite a while, I guess, eh?
Yes, what we've done is we just transferred. We've taken traditional and put it together with influencers. So in our influence department, and so we have 97 million followers in our social media network. Not me when it comes to online, because the hardest thing I've ever had to work is my Instagram. Like right now, I got an Instagram bug. I'm trying to contact them, but there's no phone call. You can phone them, and you just have to like text them or email them. Nothing. I've had a bug for 4 weeks, and I'm like, I can't like my own videos. I couldn't like something from you. It says, you know, due to our community, tell us if we've done something wrong. Well, each day I give them like 15, 20. Yeah, you've done something wrong. Fix it now. But you can't get a hold of anybody. So I couldn't like you, Keith, if I wanted to like you if you're on Instagram. That's frustrating. I only have, 785 followers on it, but I've got over 3,000 posts. I work that thing, you know what I mean? So I was like, if I have to work this and I've got 6 million views a day and counting, what would you rather put your whole moto into, you know? It's myself and 13 other girls, even though I'm really showcasing 7 of them. You know, it's almost like if you have your baseball team, you've got, you put them all on the field, and based on their schedules, their strengths, what they want to do. You know, Sherry's out of Canada, Joanna's out of Ontario, Jessica's out of Tennessee, one's out of Georgia, a couple are out of Los Angeles. So and one's out of Florida and one's out of Chicago. So we're all spread around based in different countries and different time zones. So we've been able to do all this, and it's only taken a year and 6 months to get that.
Wow.
So between now and the end of the year, I want 10 million views. So now the girls have their own views now. So Terry Marie, she's got over 3 million views alone because she used to do a lot of red carpet stuff. Obviously, we're not doing red carpet stuff right now, but she's got one that's got 21,000 views, another that's got 17, and we put them all on YouTube so they all go up. And then she was with me when I took her to Tennessee. So she was on she was on 4 out of the 5 of those shows. So imagine what she has. I think she's got 1.7 million out of Tennessee. Remember, only 5 shows, and they always go up. I keep track once a day, so you imagine that. But what I really like to do now, I love, now that I met you, I like to help promote other people's shows. That's what we really should be doing, helping one another.
Right. That's what I've been doing. I started a network for shows that are like indie shows that, they're not like me where they have a platform or a fan base from other things outside of this. So I give them an opportunity, and I tell them, that's all I'm giving you is an opportunity. I'll promote you and everything. But at the end of the day, I can't make people listen to your show. You guys have to give them a reason. But I'm giving you, a platform. I put them on my website. So that's another free route for them to gain exposure. And, at the end of the day, it's like, you got to be compelling, man. You got to create content that people care about. I'm just giving you, another place for people to find you and kind of putting your name out there. And, I love doing that. I think it's important. Using your platform to help people. And that's why I'll bring on guests and things that have a lot of talent, but they just haven't been discovered yet. You know what I mean? And give them an opportunity to be discovered. And, it's great. I think, it keeps the industry going.
Good for you. And that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, Samuel Jackson told me one time, he goes, I'll read anybody's script. I'll read my gardener script. Word for word, he said that. And when he said that, it made sense. Even though you still have to go through his agent or his manager or whatever, he'll still read it because you just never know.
Exactly.
Notice one lone black guy that's in every single movie. So he's the 6 degrees of separation, not Kevin Bacon. And I actually told Kevin Bacon that. I go, Kevin, I'm more 6 degrees of separation than you are. I was joking when I said it, but really we are, because we do the world of sports, whether there's sports or not. We do the world of fitness. We do the world of entertainment. I'm a movie whore. I love going to the theaters, and now I can't go to the theaters per se because I don't think the movies are safe. So I'm not going to tell the audience to go. And then, as you were saying, I don't promote my shows.
Right.
You don't see me who I'm going to have. I don't do that. I get everybody into the studio, or we just do them. Sherry will do it, but I don't have time to do that. I want it to be sort of like this. We're just having a conversation, and then I'm going to put them on 9 different social media websites, and then I air them on the formats. That's what I do. And then people go, Brian, why don't you start advertising? I'm like, I don't have time to do that, which is what you just said.
Right.
They don't understand how much time it goes into putting a show together, do they?
No, I mean, it's a full-time job. And I don't advertise either. Like, I'll put up who I had in the past because that's more for me. You know, that's like a
yes. That's what I do.
Right.
Now the girls will go and do that, which is fine. And I'm like, let's just do the show because we may do 2 or 3 shows a day. So this is the 26th week of doing Zoom interviews. We've done 176 shows since April 2nd.
Wow.
So on our YouTube, just our YouTube alone, never mind the Tennessee's number, that's a whole number. We have 8 different numbers. We have our Tennessee numbers, 3.8 million views a day in counting. They go up between 1 and 7,000 views a day. They used to go up between 12 and 36,000. That's only because there's not a new show up. If they put a new show up, they would just jump automatically. One feeds another, as you know. Now our YouTube, we got to 1 million views, and I thought I was going to be there 2 years ago. And they kept changing the algorithms and everything, as you know. You know, is it kid friendly? I say no, whether it's kid friendly or not. I don't want to change anything. I don't put up any music. I don't put up any movie trailers because I found out years ago that would give them a reason to copyright something. So I'd like, let me just keep it basic. So we're at 1.1 million views a day, you know, and counting. I check the numbers throughout the day because the shows move so quickly. Because anytime, you know, the shows are shared, they're being shared 3-5 times. So my other co-hosts, I would always say, share the shows. And they wouldn't share the shows, so you might only get certain things. So I could tell the difference on things, and it does make a big difference. So thank goodness for Sherry out of Canada, you know, Jimmy, Eileen, and a bunch of other people. The shows are being shared at least 9 times. That's just one show. So imagine, you know now, you had someone sharing all your shows because you don't have time, because I know kind of what you do. It's a lot of work.
Right. And dude, like today, this right now is show, I believe, 77 for me. I'm not even 100. Wow. I'm not even 100 in yet. And it just blew up, dude. But I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I've been noticing recently, to your point with YouTube, I'll have a video that will say, I don't know, say 2,000 views so far. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, it'll say 1.9 thousand. Like, 100 people just unviewed it. You know what I mean? It's so shady.
No, they've been changing things around, and I tell people this because since October 3rd of 2018, I've been sending out emails. People don't realize Google changed things around about 7 months ago through simple emails. You can email someone. I could email you, and you might not get it. I could be on the phone with you, and you still might not get it. They've changed a lot of things around, and people don't realize. So our numbers, what you were just saying, they were jumping. It could say it was because I screen captured it when it said 999,999. What's the chances that you would ever see that? Because I kept looking at the numbers, they kept jumping, and then all of a sudden it would go down. I'm like, how is that possible? And I work off of 3 different computers at the same time, 2 different phones in my tablet. That's how my office is set up on the table. So what happens is I'm looking at the thin numbers. 3 different computers had 3 different numbers. What's the chances of that? And I'm like, so what's going on? So the phone was the right number. So I was going by that. So that's why I started keeping track on my phone and handwriting them, because I wasn't sure which number was right. And then all of a sudden it would jump 3,000 to 5,000 views. And then, as you say, it might lose 100. I'm like, how is that possible? And then it would correct itself.
Right. It's weird. I've seen that exact same thing on the same PC, but just I open different tabs and I view it. I refresh all of them and they'll still be different. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. During the retrograde, it was really active. And that's why I always tell people, when you got a Mercury retrograde, it affects everything, communication within humans, stuff when it comes to electronics, and I tell people, I don't care if you believe it or not, it's true. Think of a full moon. Do you not think people get weirder during a full moon? Do you see more accidents, hear more sirens? The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
We made of over 93% of water on our body? Yes. But, am I going to argue with someone stupid? The answer is no. I don't have that kind of time. When you get to where we are, then we can talk. Because here's my numbers. Let me see yours.
Right. And, trying to argue with idiots just isn't productive.
You can't argue with stupid.
No, you're not going to correct it. I was just talking to Casey Wright last night about that. We were talking about...
Oh, my friend Casey?
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a friend of mine now, too. He's a great guy. And we had a great conversation about this. And I've talked to a few people about this. I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm just business minded. But we talked about the whole Joe Rogan thing moving to Spotify. And, of course, when that comes up as an ad on social media, just look at the comments. And you'll see a bunch of broke people insulting each other in an argument about another man's wealth rather than worrying about getting their own. I don't understand that.
What's funny about that, Keith, is that I don't get involved with once I put up the show, I learned because Terry would get upset, I'm just going to say it. She's a Trump supporter. I don't mind. But the thing what I tell her, you looking for sponsorships, you're going to piss people off once you start saying stuff. So all of a sudden, she's been doing stuff on TikTok. She's learned her lesson now. Instead of fighting on Facebook. I'm like, what, Cherry, why are you fighting with people on Facebook? She goes, I'm allowed to do what I want to do. It's freedom of speech. I'm like, yeah, but does freedom of speech pay your bills? Right. That's what it boils down to. I go, do you want your sponsors for your fitness shows? And I go, Terry, let me remind you, because I'm always telling her, you have over 3 million views. And it takes me a while to count up 5 years of stuff that you've done for me. But I go, Terry, ask your friends, ask anybody if they have over 3 million views. You could validate it. Here's one show you have on that's got 967,000 views. That's just one show. You've got another one that's got 793,000. And I know the numbers keep off the top of my head because I add them up once a day. Put those two numbers together. They add up to over 1 million views.
Right.
That's just things. That's not even counting. That's out of Tennessee. That's not counting the stuff on YouTube that she's done on the red carpet stuff that continues to go up, as you and I talked about. But good for you on your videos. I mean, I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, thanks, man. It's just, I agree completely. You do have to be mindful of what you say because you never know who's listening. And
well, it also gives people a reason to argue with you. Do I have time to argue with people? No, I do not. I don't even argue with the girls because we all like each other. We just can't get a chance to see each other, and we miss each other and we're very close. So here's the thing, Keith. No matter what, I can't change the skin color of my skin. I just can't. But, even on my social media stuff, I haven't talked about Black Lives Matters. I'm still Black. My life matters. I know what it's like to be walking down Beverly Hills and be stopped for walking too fast. Just walking. I know what it's like to be walking in Tennessee with my earphones on and backpack, and a cop pulls me over as I'm walking, Keith, saying, "Hey, you want a ride?" And I'm like thinking, what cop asks a Black person if they want to get in the car and give them a ride? I'm down the street where we're going to go in and do our shows. And then he asked me again. He asked me 3 times. This was August 4th. No, this was August 3rd of 2018, a day before we were supposed to do our shows, Keith, in Tennessee. Do you think I was going to get into that cop's car? He wanted to know where I was going. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be in the neighborhood, but I was going to be sharing the property. It's $1 million estate. Obviously, I guess I didn't belong there. So he goes, "Do you have any ID?" So again, I'm not driving, Keith. I'm walking with my monster headphones on my backpack. I'm listening to my drum and bugle chord music. Nice guy. But he goes, "Hey, your license is expired." I'm like, "Yes, I'm waiting for my Nevada one because I go back and forth. I want to have my Nevada one, but it wasn't ready. So I had to use my California ID." And he goes, "You sure you don't want to ride?" And I'm like thinking, why is this cop asking me if I want to get in his car to give me a ride, which is only 7 minutes walking down the street? Keith, I had already walked 43 minutes. You know what I mean? Another 7 minutes, the street is not going to kill me, you know? So till this day, I can't tell you what might have happened if I gotten in the car, because I honestly don't know. And I when I tell that story to people, they go, good thing you didn't, because we may never have found you. And then the other thing was, would I have gotten in the front or would I have gotten in the back? Because I don't know.
Right.
Here's the other thing, Keith. The next day, that same cop was in the neighbor's driveway. And in the South, they got long driveways. So the driveway, well, you may be like 40 yards or 75 yards, you know? And I hopped the fence because I had a Lyft driver take me the next day because I'm like, I'm not going to walk today just in case. Good thing I didn't, because I guarantee you he might have stopped me and I don't know what would happen. But I don't want to know what the possibilities was. All I knew was I was shooting my show. If I hadn't done those shows, guess what? Because I had my co-host being flown in. I never forgot that. That's just that instance. Now, nothing happened, but listen to the story. Let me ask you, if you were in my position, Keith, would you have gotten into that cop's car?
Hell no. Not a chance.
Now, wouldn't you think it's strange if a cop asked you 3 times? Let me give you a ride.
Yeah, that seems a little shady to me, you know, to say the least.
I was confused by that. You know what I mean? I was happy. I'm listening to my drum and bugle corps music, you know, because I love marching bands and drum corps. And I'm happy. And I'm like, you know, because I wanted to know. It gives me a chance to walk and talk and just walk. And I guess you're not supposed to be black and walk in 80-degree weather in Tennessee. I don't know. I never forgot that, you know?
I would have been like, first of all, where were you 43 minutes ago, man?
Well, I saw him pass me going by, you know, because, you know, you pay attention to your surroundings. I'm in a whole different state. I'm just doing my shows there. But again, imagine this. If I had gotten to the car, I don't know what would have happened. He definitely wanted to know where I was going because obviously, I guess I wasn't supposed to be in that neighborhood. So that same cop, it ended up following his wife. So here's the thing, you know, Jimmy Adams out of Tennessee, who owns iTunes 247, well, he's white. He was Don King's bodyguard for many, many years. Now he's Don King's best friend. But also for President Trump, you know, this is where their relationship came. They all met in like 1982. So their relationship goes back that long. But he was also a bodyguard to people who were mobsters out of New York. So I don't know what would have happened. I just know we did our shows out of there, and if I had gotten into the car, I wouldn't probably have done the shows the next day. We wouldn't have the views. So I was thinking of this in that last moment. No, let me just continue to walk the 7 minutes down the street. I'll be okay. So, but what happened is the next day when I jumped the fence, I'm walking down the driveway and I'm looking to the left. The cop was looking at me and I'm like, I'm glad I took a lift over today. I don't know what would have happened. And I don't even want to know.
No, that seems pretty, you know, sketchy to me. You made the right choice.
Yeah, it sounds strange to you too, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. You know, yeah, it's a shame that kind of crap happens, man, because it's ridiculous. And you see it on social media all the time too, all the arguments like you were saying, and it's like, what's the point? There's never been a time where somebody said, okay, complete stranger, since you just called me an idiot, I now see things your way. I've totally changed my opinion. Thanks for pointing it out to me that way. Like, what's the point? It's just two people that will never be in the same place at the same time, getting heated for no reason. You know what I mean? There's more constructive ways of debating, I think, and that's, I don't know, it's just ridiculous. It's a waste of time.
And I like your Cube shirt too.
Oh, thanks, man. I love him, man. He's awesome. I've always been a Cube fan. Absolutely love him, man.
I'll tell him the next time I see him.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, he's awesome. Ever since day one, I was such a fan growing up with, you know, Cube and all the others, like especially in New York and even in the West. I love both. I think I never understood the whole, you know, comparison between the two because East and West both have their own styles that just make them so unique. You know what I mean? And you got legends on both sides. So I don't really.
And, you know, the interesting thing is I told them, it was a rarity that you would see Cube smile. Mm-hmm. And I said, a photo of me in the studio with him, and I think it was for the second Are We There Yet? And I said, Cube, I caught you smiling. He goes, don't tell anybody. But it was the classic photo of me and him in the studio, and that he's wearing his sweatshirt after our TV interview. And I never forgot that. Yeah, he's one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
But again, you have your street persona, you know?
Exactly. And yeah,
he's also been in the most sequels of anybody.
Really?
Go back and watch his filmology. How many sequels that he's done? Friday, Are We There Yet? Yeah. And he's done 2 more.
That's awesome, man. You know, it's cool when you find out little facts like that, because there's so many things people didn't know that are like that. You know, a friend of mine, Ken Sagos from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, was on my show, and he told me something I didn't realize. I never really clued into it, that he made history doing Nightmare on Elm Street 3, because he's the first black character in a worldwide horror movie that survives.
Exactly. It doesn't happen.
Right. He's literally the first to do it, so he made history, and he's been credited as a pioneer for it.
Exactly. It was always like, okay, you know, the black person gets killed first.
You know, and we joked about it because he said, well, if you look back to before that with the blaxploitation movies and things, he said technically Blackula, you know, did it first, but he's a vampire, so technically he's already dead. So he's like, I get the credit because I was a living character that survived throughout the movie until the next one, and then they killed him off within minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But still, you know.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome, you know, thing to achieve, especially for that time frame in the 80s. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what he's doing now too. With he's had this charity for a long time now, helping people with their education, helping people get into movies that want to act and things like that. He's helped some people become doctors. Unreal.
That stuff is important. I always tell people, you've got to have a charity. That used to be one of my favorite questions, and I always word it like this. If you have a favorite charity, what might it be and why? And the reason I worded it like that, because some of them had never been asked that question. Some of them had never thought about that. And I remember the last person I asked, I can't mention his name, the publicist whispered in the ear, he goes, oh, the question you asked me 2 questions ago, I do have a charity. And I go, oh yeah, you just came up with one. But that's exactly like that, because some people had never thought of it before, and he didn't want to embarrass them.
Yeah, that's funny. You know, it's kind of sad that it doesn't really even cross some people's minds, you know, doing anything charitable. And I think that's a shame. You know, I obviously am starting a charity myself, and I know how much work goes into it. You know, the government has to be a part of every bit of it. There's so much paperwork to do and things of that nature, but it's so worth it.
Which one are you going to start?
As soon as all the paperwork's like done and processed, like I'm literally looking through every process, and it's like, man, there's so much to do. It's going to take time, but
yeah,
getting the ball rolling now and figuring out what.
Can you say what charity it is, or you have to still work on it?
Oh yeah, no, I can totally say it. It's going to be named after my son.
Hold on, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
What was the charity?
It's going to be named after my son. It's going to be the Madden Taylor Foundation for the condition that he was born with that took his life. It's called NKH. It's
wow.
It's an extremely rare condition that babies are born with that ultimately, in most cases, they live 2 weeks and then it takes their lives. He lived to be 2 years and then decided his fight was over 9 days after he turned 2 years old. But it's such a rare condition that they're not really getting the kind of funding they should be. The one expert that knows the most about it is in Colorado. So for us out here, we get the trickle down information that comes directly from him. So as he learns new things, they, learn how to treat it. But all they're doing basically is slowing down the process. It's not curing it. So the idea is to find a cure, because I follow all these families right now who are going through it, whose children, every day they're just hoping today is not the day, that they have to say goodbye. So
How rare is that?
it's literally, the last I heard, there's about 500 cases in the world.
Oh, see, that's important. That's when you have that ready, you contact me and I'll donate to that. That sucks.
I appreciate that. I mean, there's a lot of charities right now that, well, not a lot, but there's a couple big ones that people have put together because their children have it. And, so there's a couple. There's one in the UK, and then there's one I know of in the US that's a big one that's registered. But the one for my son will be the first in Canada that is created. So that's cool. And it just kind of, I feel like the more players in that field, so to speak, raising funds to try to find a cure for it, the better, right? And to create awareness, of course.
Well, my number one charity is St. Jude's Hospital out of Tennessee, and I like that because it kind of it's all about helping kids. I like that, and the other one is Doctors Without Borders, because Robin Williams turned me on to that. And I always tell people this. I made Robin Williams cry, talk about his charity, because he would always go and entertain the troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he was very emotional about it. And you would never see this. And then so when Robin Williams died, he made me cry.
Right. Yeah.
So, if I had his number, and I, as a journalist back then, you weren't supposed to ask for personal things. It was just an unwritten rule. That's not what you do. But after a while, you start interviewing a lot of people like that over the years, and you become friends with certain people, And if I could say this, had I had the balls to do that, I feel I could have prevented him, because I would always be talking to him or encouraging. That's what we're really supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. I miss that guy, man. That was a hard one.
Oh, he would be going nuts right now. Him, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, they would be going nuts with all the stuff that's going on. They would be, and we need that,
Yeah, I mean, that was a hard one to hear about. It's it's never easy to hear about anybody's death, but that one was like, wow, you're kidding me. Like I couldn't fathom that. I was like, there's no way. And sure enough, I looked it up and it was true. And I was like, that is insane. Because it was so at a left field to us from an outsider's perspective. But that's what depression looks like, you know what I mean? And things of that nature. Usually deaths like that, on the surface, you don't see anything wrong. They seem like happy people.
Right.
And then you find out when it's too late, like that wasn't necessarily the case, and it's so sad.
I don't know if you can see this. It's a docuseries. It's very good. It's not out yet. It comes out October 3rd. It's a 5-part series. Do you get Showtime up there?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's on the history of the Comedy Store. Have you been you've been inside the U.S., right?
Yeah.
When's the last time you went to Los Angeles?
Oh, man, it's been a minute. I went for like a radio show once when my career started, and I haven't really been out there too much after that. So it's kind of like in and out kind of deal, doing radio shows and things like that. So I never really got time to stay and like see anything, which sucks. But
that's almost like being on tour. You go do your promotion, you do your gig, and then you're on to the next city. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
it's of the Comedy Store right on Sunset. So every comedian that played there, they got their start. So that was the place you needed to play. And Pauly Shore, his mom, Mitzi Shore, owned it. So it's a great documentary. So I'm looking to get Pauly and his brother on, and then director Mike Binder. Mike Binder. But it's on every comedian. So they got Jay Leno, they got David Letterman talking about when they started. And you see these classic photos that you've never seen before. Interviews on all of them back in the early 70s when it first opened up. And Mitzi, Pauly Shore's mom, she's no longer there, but how she was always running it, a small little tiny Jewish lady, she thought you were funny and she put you on. And that was the whole thing. Johnny Carson would always have people come over there. So if you got on his show, you made it. So it was one of those things of that. So you see early Robin Williams doing those things there and how they had a friendship of everybody. It's very interesting. But that's one I would recommend. It debuts October 3rd in the U.S. And I'm always looking to see what Canada is now, because I feel bad if I'm talking about stuff and you guys can't see it. So I want to make sure you guys can see stuff, you know. Why leave our friends from the north out? It makes no sense to us.
Right. You know, and I love that. I've been dying. When I heard about that, I wanted to see it immediately because I love Paulie, and, you know, his mom sounded wonderful and was responsible for so many great comedians getting an opportunity. And I thought that was so cool. And yeah, Paulie is cool, man. I thought it was awesome having Perkins on my show, because he was in Encino Man, which is one of my favorite movies. I saw that in the theater.
Oh, Steve Perkins?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Steve's funny.
He's a great dude. Yeah, we had a great time. And, you know, Paulie, I'd love to get on the show, too, because he's funny as hell to me. I loved Encino Man especially. That was, like, probably my favorite thing he's ever done. And, you know, I think that whole story about that club is just amazing. And there's so many crazy stories about it, too. I've even heard some paranormal stories, man, that are kind of trippy.
Well, the last time I talked to Paulie, it was I forgot, it was a documentary on him in the Comedy Store as he was trying to run it. And it was very good. And I was thinking it was probably 2012, 2013, it's possibly even 2011, because I was on my ranch at that point. But it's the calmest I've ever seen him. He came in a suit. There was like 4 of us at a round table. We talked to him for probably 40 minutes, and it was the nicest. He wasn't over the top. And this is why it makes it unusual, because when you're doing one-on-one interviews, Robin Williams would come into the room, and he would be all spastic, because in the radio room, we couldn't have sound. We couldn't laugh. We couldn't interrupt. We would wait. We would ask the question. You would answer, and we would all jump in and ask the next question because we needed clean sound. Well, he had known us for all these years, so he would come in, and he loved our room because his job was to make us laugh. And once we got it out of the system, he was still making us laugh, but we would just like cover our mouth and stuff. And this is him. You know, Russell Crowe would do the same thing. He would actually come in and lock the door so no one else come in, because he loved our radio room. These are the kind of interviews that will no longer happen, and it's very sad. So now we're stuck doing Zoom. That's a good thing, but also, you know, when I did my 2 shows the other day, it was like the 2 people on 2 different shows said they looked at each other and said, "This is strange being in a room with strangers now," but they loved it because it's been months since they've had interaction like that. And I brought them to a new private studio, and they loved it, and it's very clean and everything, but I wanted them to do that. So Steve's coming in sometime in October, but it was Scott Page came. Scott Page and Mike Turkle came in. So they love it, so they're going to start using it. My friend owns it. But he built it up because he had been on my radio show 4 years ago with Remo Drumheads. And I said, okay, let's do it this way. Let's put the cameras over here, and I can utilize that. So I'm going to continue with my Zoom, but I'm going to also have the in space in studio for Los Angeles. So there's people that want to get out of Zoom and actually go into a real studio. Because as a musician, you can actually record there. And if you're a voiceover artist, you can record there also.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know, there's something to be said for doing that. I love Scott, too. He's a good dude. Brilliant guy. I mean.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that he's a technology guy. He loves tech.
Yep. Yeah.
It's all about that. I love technology. I'm environmentally friendly, sustainable. You know, Sinbad, my friend, the comedian, he's a technology guy too. He's a tech nerd. You know, he was going to be, he wanted to be, you know, a scientist. He will tell you, he actually wanted to blow stuff up. He'll tell you.
That's awesome. I never would have known.
Yeah, I tell him, I don't talk to him about his acting or comedy. We talk about technology. I talk to him about all the cool stuff that I found. And I go, Sinbad, you don't have this yet. Let's do a show with this. Go, yeah, man, let's do it. Let's go. Because he's got ADD, so it's hard to get his attention and stuff, but he loves technology because he'll have the headphone in one ear listening to me. He'll have his ringer in the other ear, and he's looking at all his different devices. That's how he operates with stuff.
Wow. Yeah, see, and for me, it's more like art. If I I'm not great with technology, but if I can get my mind to view it as like an art form, I understand it better, a lot better, like almost immediately. I'll pick it up. As long as my mind can convert it to like an art language kind of deal, I can start to understand it and be like, okay, so this is why this works. If you hit me with a bunch of like technical terms and things, I'm lost. But if I can flip that switch and see, okay, this is why this does that, and that's what I want, then that's how I got into digital art. I started ignoring the terms and just be like, okay, this is what this does, and that's what I'm going for. So it works, you know what I mean? And then I'll start to learn and experiment. And before I know it, I know what I'm doing. I can do digital art and things like that. So it's just a matter of kind of finding how it's like art, and then it makes sense to me. But if you start talking to me in like binary and all that weird shit, I'm lost. You know what I mean? That's when I get like, it's another language to me.
Well, I was told I wasn't a technical guy. There was other people who told me that. Turns out I am a technical guy. But, you know, it's one of those things where I didn't know. I was just finding cool stuff that I thought people had never seen before, which is what I like to find. You know, like my sign, I found them at a gifting suite. You know, and I said, I want a sign when I walk a red carpet, or, you know, where they don't write it on a piece of white paper. So I take it with me. It's different. I like stuff that stands out that's different. You know, I have like this, like the restroom kit. I found them, you know, when you go to porta potties and things like this and you have nothing to wipe your hands on. Well, you could take this on a plane, bus, train, no matter. They become first responders now, because if there's an emergency, well, you need stuff like this. It's like your personal protection kit, you know. I've had my own hand sanitizer, Lipton hand sanitizer, for 4 years. It's the only one that says it kills 99.99999% of germs in the world. None of them, nobody else says that. Nobody else. And I just did a show with them the other day, 4 years ago. So obviously I saw all this stuff coming. I just didn't know the name of it.
Right. That's cool. I'm the same way. Like, I like things that stand out. I love customization. And, you know, a lot of things to me, I see it as an art. So as soon as I can appreciate the art aspect of something, I'm about it. You know what I mean? And I got into digital art because it has its place. I do mostly drawing by hand, but I started to get into digital art. That's why I created my own backdrops and stuff like that. And
I like it.
Thanks, man. I actually just had John Stewart ask me to make one for him for his band. I was like, sure, dude. Like,
oh yeah, John's my friend.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's a cool.
Yeah, Casey and John are my close personal friends. I'm glad John was on your show, because his singer Tasha is one of my assistants, so she uploads all my shows out of Miami.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Did you get into John about how he used to do stunts?
Yeah.
Did you know? Okay, good.
Yeah, he told me before the show that he's not much of a talker, and
no, John's very, very humble.
But before we knew it, like, I had him just kind of volunteering stories and things, or I'd say something that would trigger a memory of his, so he'd just get right into it. I'm like, there you go. For someone that's not much of a talker, you know, you're talking, so it's awesome. You know, it's always good to have that kind of challenge where somebody may have a ton of stories, but they might be a little more introverted, and to somehow get them to open up without really even thinking about it. I'm blown away that I'm able to do that. Sherry was pretty complimentary about that when talking to me on my show. And she's like, yeah, I had Stephen Perkins on my show, and like, he didn't open up about some of the stuff like he did on your show. And I was like, I don't know what it is, man. I just talked to somebody, you know?
No, I think that's good. It's one of those things where we're all supposed to be helping each other. You know, John and I have known each other since the early 2000s, and I won't tell you where we met, but we met on the other side of things. It is funny. It is almost like Casey. Casey and I met Casey at a gifting suite, and I loved his stuff, that he was creating for SpaceX. And it took me a year and a couple months to get Casey. I'm like, Casey, I'm going to help you. You just don't know what I'm going to do with you. sometimes and you may experience this, sometimes it takes people a year later to get what you want to do with them. So even on our future Dreamweaver Artist Ranch, when you're able to come down, you're going to be, you might create some art for us on the Art to Montague, which will be pretty good because I love your background. I can only imagine what you will create. And that's what it's really about. Those artists creating different things where we showcase it to people in the world. For us, it'll be environmentally friendly, sustainable, and it'll be the first model for net zero, meaning, we won't have any plastic. Out of the 36 acres that we have out of 500, we only, 10 acres is for growing our own food, meaning there's never been a fire on it. It's never been fracking. The soil is fertile, so we can grow great, not processed food, if that makes sense. We're going to have our own wine. I've got someone who's creating, a beer for us. So, Keith, you'll be invited down to that. So it'll be an honor to have you come.
Well, thanks, man. That'd be an honor to be there. I wanted to do the same thing, actually start my own beer. I thought that'd be cool. I'm a beer guy, so I thought, why not? I've branded everything else of my own.
Hey, I'm drinking a Blue Moon now.
Those are good, man. Those are actually quite good.
Well, the reason for it is because, I've got the numbers that I want. I mean, they only just continue to go up, but it's always been about helping other people, whether it's Sherry, whether it's my other co-host, Terry Marie should be on your show. That'll be fun for her to talk to one of my co-hosts, Jessica out of Tennessee. I'll expose you to all of them. That'll be good for them to talk to you because their stories, everybody's got a good story to tell. They don't always get the opportunity to tell it though.
Exactly. I mean, I've been blown away in the last 4 years. I started out just getting punched in the face for a living as an MMA fighter. And it's like, I don't know, like people heard my story, which was nuts. I had a brutal life. And, they thought, well, yet here you are doing something in spite of it all. So we're going to do a documentary about your life because it's crazy. And I'm like, what the hell is happening, dude? You know what I mean? It's snowballed over the years. And I'm grateful. I've been able to brand everything myself, all my, everything I do, it just seemed to work. So very fortunate, very grateful, but I never stopped working either. So
I challenge you this, create something that says movie reviews and more on it. And then when your documentary is done, you make sure you send it to me because I will put it in the Beloit International Film Festival and I'll have them see that in Beloit, Wisconsin. It's a town of 36,000. It's the mini Sundance of the Midwest. And then if I like it, I'll put it in SWIFT, Southern Women in Film and Television in Tennessee.
Exactly.
That's Alabama. But again, when I was picking films for Hollywood Film Festival, this is the stuff that I do. That's why it's called Movie Reviews and More. But the more part has always been more important because of stuff like what we're doing now.
Right. The documentary's been done since August 14th. It's on DVD, actually.
Send me a link if you have it.
Yeah, it's available on my website. So, I could send it.
Sherry was telling me about it. I just haven't had a chance to see it. So now I want to see it, Keith.
Yeah, it's on DVD right now on my website. It's been selling pretty well, which is great. I'm grateful for that. I've been asked every sale, I've been asked to sign it, and I'm like, okay, cool. And people are like, are you going to charge extra for that? Hell no. It's like I made it because you guys supported me. I can't justify charging more to flick my wrist a couple times to sign something. It's just I don't have that ego. You know what I mean? I get it. If you go to like a convention, like a Comic-Con or something, that's how you make your money. That's great, but for me, that's not the scenario that I'm in. It's just you guys are buying my product. The least I could do is say thanks by signing it. It's I don't charge extra for that, but the sales have been cool. Like I'm just blown away. So far, everybody's been really happy with it, and I don't want to say I hate it. It's just when you oversee, like you're watching the editing process and everything, so you've seen it so many bloody times, you're just so sick of it. And
it's also, it opens you up because I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I want to see it. You're not always used to seeing your life story. And there's things that may not have been included in it that might have been extra. There's things that you might not have want to have been told. There's personal stuff. I mean, it literally, normally you're seeing it on the big screen. That's not easy to do.
Right. And I feel like so much didn't make it, because how do you fit 37 years of craziness into 90 minutes?
You can't. And here's the thing. I always tell people, documentaries should be 75 minutes. And the reason for that is because 90 minutes is a little bit too long. And it usually takes 7 years to make a documentary and then to market a property. And the reason I know that, because I've talked to the world's best documentarists, filmmakers, whether it's Ken Burns, whether it's Barbara Carpel, they're all friends. And when you think of Ken Burns, think of the Civil War, the history of jazz, Jackie Robinson, baseball, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I always tell Ken, the only documentary you haven't done is a history of drum and bugle corps. You need to do that. You're the right person to do that. There's millions of kids every person who's played in an orchestra or a marching band wants the history of that done on musical instruments. And the world of drum and bugle corps hasn't been done. So for you, the fact that you have one done, good for you. That's good. I need to see it. Me being the movie whore, I need to see that, Kate. What's going on with that? Because Sherry's been telling me about it, but it's been one of those things. I usually don't have time to go on the websites, and I'm used to the publicist sending me a link. So now I know you'll send me one, so I'll watch it. And then what Sherry and I will do when you come on our show, I'll make sure I got the other two girls on. We'll talk about it. Because I was there when the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu started stuff. Bruce Lee was my idol. Roddy Piper was my ultimate idol, because he was the ultimate villain. And without that good villain, you don't have that good person. So when I was talking to Hulk Hogan, Terry, who's a friend, I hope, if I was given a choice between Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper, I got to go with the hot rod, because this guy could talk on the mic, just like The Rock could talk on the mic. So again, this is the world of wrestling. So I was there when Gracie Jiu-Jitsu started their stuff, Hoist, and all of them. And then I stopped watching after a while because it changed. Dana White started changing things around, obviously, and it wasn't the same. And so I haven't watched the MMA fight in a long time.
Right. I love that you said that, because Piper was my guy too. I loved him. Fellow Canadian, which is cool. But
I know you guys had the Heart, well, not where you are, but you had the Heart Foundation and a bunch of them. So, the wrestlers became friends of mine. And I can tell you this, wrestlers and people on the adult side, those worlds mix just like rock and roll. So when I'm talking about my friend Amber Lynn, Ginger Lynn, or Nina Hartley, I don't know how old you are, but these are all my good friends. I'm on their shows and vice versa, because I was there helping to support them, making sure they're okay. And then the wrestlers would come around, and then the athletes would come around. When I did my Newton topless bowling or my Newton topless golf, think of Vince Neil. Vince Neil took over our Newton topless golf. You can imagine that. We were raising money to help girls who were having problems, not drug problems. They didn't have that, but it was emotional problems, because some of them wanted to be actresses, but they ended up being in front of the camera taking their clothes off. Imagine that. If you ever saw Boogie Nights with Mark Wahlberg and Nina Hartley and William H. Macy, all friends of mine, it was what Ron Jeremy was putting together on the history, kind of on what was going on in the adult side. My co-host, Bill Margot, was the Burt Reynolds character, where he was the leading authority on the adult entertainment. We knew everything. Through him, I was able to learn how to run everything, and I applied it to the mainstream side of things. And I won't tell you where this is kind of where me and John met. I can't tell you that part because John, but in general, that's how we met. But it was one of the things where it was fun. So I learned to mix max everything and learning how to get away with everything, and learning that how to get away with it, which is why we have our numbers, because I learned it on the adult side.
Yeah, it's funny too. Boogie Nights, I'm friends with the effects guy, and he was on my show. He was the production designer for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, Blade. He did the effects for Blade. He did the effects for Boogie Nights. and he told a hilarious story about the prosthesis they used, and when it was presented to him on a table. And he was hilarious, and he says that he's hung like a hamster, so it made him intimidated.
I was there doing all the interviews. My co-host, my old co-host, he's no longer with us, Bill Margot, hated that movie, but he ended up liking the Burt Reynolds character. One of the things, he hated it because it was illegal to shoot adult entertainment before 1986. And out of the only two states that it was legal to shoot was Los Angeles and New Hampshire. Why New Hampshire? I don't know. But New Hampshire was the only one that passed it, not Las Vegas. So when we did stuff in rooms that I will never tell people about, behind closed doors, we weren't allowed to shoot in Las Vegas. So a lot of the MAA flyers would come and meet some of the girls. So I just happened to know all of them. So I'm good with connecting people. So you can imagine what I did. I made a lot of people happy.
It's unreal. Like Vegas, that's where they drew the line. But New Hampshire's like, we got this. Don't worry about it. Just, what a bizarre.
Still to this day, the only two places you could sue legal, Los Angeles and New Hampshire. That's it. Every place else is illegal. So the lesson is, if you have any friends who, hey, let's shoot an adult tape. No, it's still illegal.
Wow. That's so weird to me.
It is weird.
It's kind of like the whole weed thing now, where there's parts of the U.S. where it's still illegal, and it seems so archaic at this point. Where here in Canada, across the board, it's completely, every province, it's legal.
Well, I just had Adam Grossman on the show from Popeye and Barkley. The reason why I like him, because he's personable. He's older. I like people who pick up the phone I can actually talk to. I don't like these things where you don't answer an email. First of all, answer the email so I know that it got to you.
Right.
Because, again, going back to Google, we don't know. Keith, if you call me, I'm going to call you back. I'm older. I'll be officially 60 Saturday. It's one of those things where I mix traditional with influence. It's one of those things, good old telecommunications is about it. But also picking up the phone in case there's an emergency, because you just don't know. And we go back to when it goes down to people who may be have anxiety or depression. You got to check on everybody. They're not going to pick up the phone or answer an email because they may not be able to. And that's an issue.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I had this conversation with a few people where I said, I miss the 80s, man, because when you hang out with somebody back then, like you were hanging out with them. They didn't have their face buried in their phone, pretending they're listening to you. And if you wanted to know how somebody was, you had to pick up the phone and call them and find out. Where now you can just scroll through their social media statuses and see what's going on with them and be like, all right, I feel caught up. I don't even have to speak to them. I hate that. I think it's stupid.
But here's the thing about that, and I know from always checking on my people and my friends, is that it's a persona. Just because they're doing a selfie, which I don't do, because I don't want to be. I always say this, selfie is also about what? You don't have a friend you can take a picture with? That's really what a selfie is. So I've never done that. It's always about, I don't do that stuff. I let the girls do that stuff. Go wild, do all that stuff. Let's take a group photo because we can never get together. And it is hard. So when we did the other show, 2 weeks ago, it was hard because I hadn't seen Terry Marie, my number one co-host, since January 16th when we were at the NAMM convention, the biggest music convention in Anaheim, California. And then I hadn't seen Victoria Renee, my other co-host, and she's married into the Elvis Presley brand, St. Jude's Hospital, the Grand Ole Opry. She lives in Los Angeles with her husband, Link, who's one of our influencers too. I hadn't seen him or her since a year and a half. And we were all in the studio, and we had just so much fun just being back together. And it was strange because we didn't know time had passed. Yeah. That was strange.
It's really weird to adapt to all this craziness that's kind of going on. It's cool that we have this option, but it's not the same.
No, it's not. And that's why I offer people a place to go to the studio You can't come down yet. Sherry can't come down yet. My other friend Joanne, there's a couple of people because the border is closed. And it's for a good reason, whether people like it or not. Why? Because we have the most cases. That's really what it boils down to. Is it that bad? Yes, it is. So you still have to be careful, because I tell people, and I'm on the record for saying this, and I'm good at predicting things, this is not going away for another 5 years. And, there's not going to be a real vaccine until mid to late next year. It's not going to be before our election. That's not going to happen. That's not how it works. You have to test it. You got to make sure it works on, people of color, women, young kids, babies. That takes a long time to do, and then at that best, you're only going to get 50% of people. That's it.
Right.
That's just and I'm a realist when it comes to stuff like that. Plus, I talk to a lot of CEOs because I'm one myself. So they tell me all kinds of things, but I also know, and I tell them what's going on. Just like movie theaters. The reason why I would not tell you to go to a movie theater yet here in this country is because it's not set up yet. And then two, the real reason is all the movies have been pushed to next year.
Yep. What breaks my heart for you guys too is how many people have filed for bankruptcy and things of that nature just because of medical bills. Out here we don't have that. It's like,
right.
We need a shot, we go get it, no problem. It's done. There's no bill coming. It's that simple. And I'm originally from Toronto. I was born and raised out there, and I just moved here about 3 years ago. So basically in Toronto, they're just as bad with the cases. Like there's new cases all the time. Where I'm at, we've made this like East Coast bubble where we can go to other parts of the East Coast, but without having to worry about quarantining. But if you leave the province to go anywhere outside the East, the Maritimes, then you have to quarantine when you get there. You have to quarantine when you get back. So it makes me wonder in December if the Quebec thing's even happening, because I'm supposed to be hanging out with like Kenny Olson and Sherry and a bunch of people if they make it. But for me, it's like an 11.5-hour drive. It's not really an issue. But if the borders aren't open for them, then it's just not happening, right? So it's a play it by ear kind of situation at this point. So I don't even know, what we're doing.
Well, our studio is very clean. We had 5 people in it. Our engineer, which was 6, and then our camera person, he stepped out. So he was running everything. We're still testing everything, but there was nobody else in the rest of the room. So upstairs is 2 levels. Upstairs, there's 6 rooms. There's nobody else in the other rooms. Downstairs, there was nobody downstairs in the other 2 rooms. So the most people that are there is when I'm doing my shows, or else there might be 3 people, maybe 5. But it's set up because it's new, and it's also hidden. So when I do that, it's a safe place to go. So people had fun yesterday because it was one of those things where they were like, and I personally took their temperature checks. I want to make sure everybody feels safe and comfortable. It's only an hour show. We start on time and we end on time. It's one of those things. But I want to make sure that people are okay, because I want them to come back if they want to. And I want them to bring their friend if they want to. Here's the other thing. I don't want everybody to go. Everybody's invited, but that doesn't mean everybody can come, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Even on our property, instead of having 300 people at a max on it, we can only have 200 people because things have changed. And I tell people that you have to be able to adapt, adjust to the change. If you can do those 3 things, you will survive it. If you can't, you could be dead tomorrow. And your life and your business depends on it. And I tell people that, and I'm open in front of it because I want to help people. I want to, when I see your shows and you put them up on Facebook, whatever, I automatically am going to share your shows because I like you. But that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're not in competition. I've never been in competition with anybody. It's not like that. Everybody's different.
I feel that same way, man. Like I've seen people, and they claim to be friends of yours, and they have their own show that's just kind of local to them. It's an indie thing. They're not doing, what I'm doing, because they're not known for other things like I am. So they never had that platform in the first place. And they, you could post anything that you're published and that this, that, and the third, whatever happens, that's good. And you'll see their friends all show support, but they don't. And it's like, okay, so in your mind, we're in competition, even though, you're someone no one's heard of, and I've established myself through other means, and you're trying to compete with somebody who, like, you're not even, first of all, it would probably benefit you to get advice from somebody who's more established.
Absolutely. And that's what people forget. And that's why, and I found this out, all the stuff that I was testing, because here's the thing, Keith, I can tell you exactly what our goals are. By April 2nd of 21, we will have 25 million views a day and counting. And I always put it counting because the numbers go up each day. Imagine if you're a friend of mine and I'm sharing your shows. I don't have to do that.
Exactly.
If I had an ego, but that's not how you survive. This is the 21st century. You can't have an ego. It doesn't work this way. We're in the age of Aquarius. I'm very, very spiritual. I've been practicing Buddhism for 32 years? You don't get through where we are by doing certain things. You're a martial artist. I was a martial artist. Bruce Lee was my idol, when I saw Enter the Dragon in 1973. So that tells you something right there. So I've always practiced Asian culture. I practice feng shui. On our Dreamweaver, the art of Montague.com, the Dreamweaver Artist Ranch, everything is set up to be showcased. So when you come over, when you're able to come down from Canada sometime next year, it may open up in November, it may open up in December. But here's the thing, time goes quick in the fall. It goes very fast. We're at the end of September. So it's nothing to worry about. And I tell Sherry all the time, who cares if you're not going to come in October, November? It goes quick. There's nothing going on in the month of January. I'm doing CES stuff. I'm doing NAMM stuff. I'm talking to the CEOs. We will have the best technology. But you know what? Keith, when you come in, we'll do a show together on stuff. We'll promote your documentary. Once you have a music CD, a documentary, film, or whatever, or music, it's timeless. There's a lot of people who have never seen it, so it's all about talking to them about it.
Exactly. And I was born in January, so I can vouch nothing goes on in January. It sucks.
Well, January used to be the busiest month. This January coming up is going to be a dead month because, unless they figured out how to do the award shows, but all the stuff has been pushed. So the Oscars are in April. It's never been in the month of April before, but that's the best thing to do. Push it further. That's okay. Give yourself time. That's the best way to do stuff and the safest way. And I do everything based on safe.
That's the way to do it. And, I agree. There's no room for ego because to me, that's the first thing that turns me off with people is, certain behaviors. I felt like, I was a big Rousey supporter back in the day, and then she takes a loss and her ego got in the way and the sportsmanship just was not there. And the stories I've heard from reliable sources, her reaction towards somebody for congratulating Holly Holm on beating her was just disgusting. And I was like, all right, I'm done with that. Like, you lose my support when you start acting like that, because that's just straight up disrespectful. It's not a good look. It's not for someone that fancies themselves a role model to young women. That was not a good example to set, to cuss someone out for congratulating somebody like a professional on their win. It was not a slight at you, but you took it that way. And it's just like,
well, here's what happened. And this, she was not prepared for that fight.
No.
That's simply what it was. So, she let the best of her head get to her. She wasn't prepared. Simply, that's what it was. She took it for granted. We've seen that before. You've seen it in the boxing. You've seen it in wrestling. But you have to be careful in wrestling because you could get hurt. And it's entertainment. Vince McMahon will tell you that. So when they used to have all the stuff when it came to the steroids and stuff. And the bad thing is when I've seen Hulk Hogan, my friend Hulk walk. It's sad to see him walk. His 2 knees and his hip surgeries. That's not good. The wear and tear on your body, and from fighting the wear and tear. it takes its toll.
Right. And he's had so many back surgeries. It's unbelievable. He's even lost height because of his spine just kind of compacting. It's crazy, you know.
The last time I saw him, Terry, there's a photo of me and him and Jimmy Hart. And I forgot what show we were talking about. Oh, you know what was that? It was the NBC show, the re-release of Titans. I think it was Titans or whatever it was. Oh no, I'm sorry, American Gladiator. And there's an interview of me, him, and Layla Ali. It's only 4 minutes. That video is 110,000 views and counting. I think we did it. It might be 9 years ago now.
Wow.
It's only 4 minutes. 110,000. That's not even my top one.
Wow.
But, you know, and Layla was pregnant then, and she wasn't a wrestling fan. And we did it outside in Pasadena. So watching Terry walk, he goes, you know, he had Jimmy Hart with him. He goes, Jimmy, why is my hotel room so far away? I can't walk that far. That was so sad to see that and hear that. And it was just the three of us. And so I've always been in those instances where people, they would never know the stuff that I know that I've been through. And so that's where you defend people. No matter what's been said, you defend them.
Absolutely.
You know, because you don't know what's going on with the body. You understand because you've been there.
Right. And it takes a toll, man. Like the amount of years he's been doing it and, you know, all the surgeries and everything. Like last I heard he's getting into the CBD oil just to try to make the pain go, you know, to a minimum because it's pretty brutal some days.
He has to because, you know, there's sometimes there's a thing where if you're doing a surgery, you might not need that surgery. Maybe something that CBD or, you know, or edibles can help out with. But, you know, who knows?
Absolutely. Do you still follow the product today?
Yes. I want to help Papa and Barkley because I like Adam Grossman. And, you know, there's always people throwing themselves at us with stuff, but I'm very specific. I want stuff that's environmentally friendly. I want stuff that's sustainable. And again, you know, when we have it on our ranch, the Dream Weaver Artist Ranch, it's about showcasing those great products that we found that people may have never heard of, why we had it, whether it's a Lipto, whether it's the restroom kit, whether it's this, whether it's Unforgettable Fire. There's reasons why I chose it.
That's awesome. You still watch wrestling?
Yeah, the documentary could be one of them once I see it.
I appreciate it, man. You still watch wrestling at all?
Here and there, it's odd. The person I want to talk to is Triple H because, one, I've never met him. I've never spoken with him. And I want to talk to Stephanie McMahon because it's almost that time. And I grew up in Connecticut, so I go back to Bruno Sammartino. So keep an eye out on for this. HBO's got a Bruno Sammartino documentary. That'll be very, very interesting on that. Bruno's still alive. And it'll be interesting of him telling his story in the documentary on his life.
Definitely. The Andre the Giant one was really good.
It was very, very good. And the thing that stood out with that, and I remember seeing Andre the Giant wrestle, I saw him wrestle in person, is I always felt bad when he had to travel on an airplane because it wasn't set up for him. And then the people that would make remarks. That's the things that I think about.
Right. You know, like I hated hearing that where people it obviously got to them, you know, and how could it not when people are viewing you like a sideshow and it's like, have some respect, man. It's a human being, you know?
Yes. He was called the eighth wonder of the world because of who he was. You know, the stuff of if you talk to Pat Patterson or Roddy's not alive anymore, you know, again, these people you will never have an opportunity to talk to them. I was honored that I got a chance to meet most of them, if not all of them. You know, I was there when The Rock did his first movie. You know, Rowdy, you know, did a book signing. I just happened to be in Hollywood. I'm like, I gotta go meet my idol. He's the reason I went to Glasgow, Scotland to get my kilt. I had no idea he really wasn't from Glasgow, Scotland, but I didn't know that at that. So I got a photo with me and Rowdy at a book signing in Hollywood. It was at, I think it was at the Hollywood Comic Store. And my photographer friend told me, are you on your way to go see Roddy Piper? I'm like, what? He's got a book? I mean, I had read his book. I went home to go get the book and go do it. And so that's my classic photo. If I had a kilt there, I would have wore the kilt.
I can't even begin to imagine what Andre went through, because I'm 6'5", and everybody seems to think they're the first to inform me that I'm tall. So I can only imagine the crap he had to go through.
Yeah. Just think of him getting on a plane. Think of him walking with his bad hips, bad back, bad knees. Think of him going to that long-ass flight to Japan when he used to go to Japan all the time. Think of him being in the car for 10 and 12 hours with 3 other wrestlers, him sitting in the back seat,
That sucks, man. Like that, the discomfort alone.
But also think about this. Remember, the villains, he was friends with a lot of them, they couldn't be seen at that point together either. That's tricky.
Yeah, that was an art form back then, man, when everybody bought in and thought it was legit, and they had to have separate locker rooms and not be seen in public together. If they ran into each other, there's stories where if they ran into each other at the same gas station store, they had to start some kind of fake drama to make it look legit so nobody suspected.
Exactly.
That's brilliant, man. That was when it was like really showbiz, and now it's such a different product,
Well, it had to evolve because of the steroid scandal and everything, and then with the death of I can't remember his first name, last name Hart.
Owen, yeah.
Owen, yeah. Things had to change, and again, they had to adapt, and it was good because think about the '90s with Stone Cold, and I was there when Stone Cold did his first film. And I'll never forget this. And my picture didn't come out. I had 3 pictures that didn't come out. Stone Cold, Beyonce, for Austin Powers. Look where she is now. Her first film was Austin Powers, the third one, and John Travolta. Three on a disposable camera. Now, here's the thing. You weren't supposed to take photos. Do you not think I wasn't going to do Beyonce or Austin Powers and Steve Austin for his first film? And this is what he said. I'm giving this acting thing a try. I'm actually taking classes.
Right.
Cold seeing this. It was me, him, and one of my other friends, private room interview. I'll never forget that.
No, that's what I love about doing this too, is and just kind of the last 4 years getting to know people that I grew up watching their work, and now it's like they're friends of mine, and being able to just text them, and it's crazy, man. I love it. I think that's what makes it so worth doing, more than anything.
Absolutely. And again, so that's why I congratulate people, because it's about the experience for one, but also don't be afraid to ask those people advice and stuff who started before you, because there's not a lot of us left. On the movie reviewing side, there's not a lot. You got Lennon Moulton, you got Joe Morgenstein, David Sheen out of Los Angeles. He's retired, and I want to do a show with David. I need to do a part 1, part 2. Think of Howard Bloom. If you haven't had Howard Bloom on your show yet, he's the guy who created Michael Jackson, Prince, Billy Joel, Joan Jett, the list goes on and on. I've done four parts. I got to do a part 5, part 6, because he's got so much stuff to talk about,
Right. I had him on for 2 hours, and I still haven't even scratched the surface with that guy, man. That's
right. He's got so much stuff, and he talks like you're reading his book.
Right.
It's an honor,
Yeah. I joke with people with that show, and I said, you might hear my voice maybe 4 times on that show, because he just, I let him go.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
When Howard Stern and I last saw each other, Howard started in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. Where's the WWE, then the WWF? In Connecticut. That's how I started following and all that stuff. So, my roots go back to a lot of stuff. So, like I said, I really am the 6 degrees of separation. Everything that you throw, I have a connection to that. You just don't know it until the story comes out.
Which is awesome, man. I love that. It makes it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Casey. I found Casey. You mentioned Jon Stewart. Yep. You were wearing a Cube shirt. All of them I know personally, and they're all friends, How often does that happen? It's a rarity, because we can't see a lot of them. I can, because they're friends. but it's hard to have that interaction if I'm going to introduce people. So when Sherry comes down, I want her to meet everybody that I know, because one, she deserves it. Two, and I would do the same thing for you, you know? Why not?
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I feel the same way, you know. I've actually just had Derek, who I did his show recently, and we became friends immediately. And, you know, he doesn't know all these people. So I'm like, hey, man, my buddy Mick, who worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 and all these other movies, has a lot of cool stories. He just put a book out. I said, if you want, I can make that introduction. So then you got another guest for your show, because he'd probably happily do it. And, you know, just helping the guy out, because I feel like that's so important, you know. I feel like the more good shows out there, the happier everyone's going to be.
See, and I personally did all the interviews for all of those movies. There is no real New Line cinema anymore, when New Line had its own entity. You know, Final Destination. You know, think of The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. I was there for all of that stuff. You know, Paul Thomas Anderson, when he first did Boogie Nights, that was just kind of, you know, that was the second film, but that was his first big film. You know, look where these people are now. It is going to be so hard to do a one-on-one with them, to even see them in the same room, never mind the same town or state or country. Right. Times have changed, unfortunately.
Exactly. All right, man. I'm getting the go-home cue here, because we've gone over now, which is awesome. So one more question for you. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but with the product now, with wrestling and everything, since I just found out we're both kind of fans of it, who's your current favorite?
It's hard to say. I like where John Cena's going into movies. I like that aspect, because it's hard to transfer in. He's been able to do it. I like how LeBron James has been able to do it. On the women's side, I like what's Rick's daughter's name?
Oh, Charlotte
Flair. Charlotte. I like Charlotte. I think I'd like to meet her. And then I like Becky, because her story from that movie Out of London was just good. And then on the female side, there's one guy. Obviously, Brock is very interesting to me. I don't know what he's going to do now, but I think he's just going to take some time off. But it's hard to see who's coming up. Roman Reigns, I think I like him. The Miz, I'm not so sure. I think he just got lucky, you know?
Right.
I would have met all these guys like that, but I didn't meet him because I was doing other things at that point. I think he just got lucky. I could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't met him yet.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's another conversation we could have probably, you know, for another hour. I've been watching.
Hey, you let me know. Like I said, I will meet them one way or another, because keep this in mind, on the Sportomix side of stuff, especially with your documentary, I'll be promoting you on a different way in the world of sports, which is the Facebook of sports around the world. Sports is starting to pick up a little bit, but it didn't matter, because I was still putting our shows up, whether you played football or basketball at one point or another. It didn't matter. So that's where I'm going to be putting you up, talking about you on that, Sportomix.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. As I would always say, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours, because the world needs it.
That's brilliant, man. Well, thanks so much, man, for coming on. It was an honor to talk to you.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. I'd love to have you get back anytime.
Yeah, you just let me know, and I'll come back.
All right.
We'll have to talk about.
Hell yeah, sounds great.
I may even tell you something on the adult side.
There you go. It is an uncensored show, so why not?
Okay. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Have a good one.
Thank you.
And there you have it. That, my friends, was my friend Brian Sebastian. Amazing guy, amazing stories. And I'm scheduled to be on his show, I think the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken. As you guys know, my schedule is pretty insane, so it's hard to keep up with, but I got it written down here. I believe it's the end of the month. I will be on movie reviews and more, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I look forward to it. It's going to be a blast. I love talking to this guy. And Sherry Nelson, of course, who's a friend of mine as well, Canadian model from Maxim Magazine. She's an actress. She's done all sorts of things, and she's on the show as well. So it's gonna be cool, man. I look forward to it. I always look forward to being able to talk to my friends. It's kind of cool to be able to do this for a career, and not get punched in the face anymore, which I might go back to, but this is fun. I truly do enjoy getting to know new people and everything. So yeah, it's really cool. It's been a blessing. And Brian is just one of those many people that I'm so proud to be able to say I became friends with, because it's always nice to have surrounding yourself, with good people. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed his stories. Check me out on their show at the end of the month, and I will catch your asses later, y'all.
I will not speak to your smallness, a destruction of the fear in us. I have yet to know what I should